They tried to ruin my life, and they didn't expect I'd keep every screenshot. I never thought my life could be taken apart in a single evening. Not like this, not so suddenly. It started with a notification. My phone lighting up with a message I didn't recognize at first. "We know what you did. You can't hide anymore." My hands froze. My heart skipped a beat. I stared at the screen, expecting some kind of mistake. I didn't know who sent it. I didn't know why. Then another message came. "Stop lying to everyone, or else." I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was a prank, a random troll online. But something about the phrasing, the way they knew details about me, it wasn't random. This was personal. I spent the next hour going through my phone, checking every social media account, scanning emails, cross-referencing numbers. Nothing. No one. And yet, the feeling didn't leave me, like someone was inside my life, just out of sight, watching, waiting. The next day, it got worse. A friend texted me a screenshot from a private group chat I didn't even know existed. There I was, mocked, misrepresented, lies about me spreading faster than wildfire. I blinked, frozen. Everything I had worked for, everything I believed in about my reputation was crumbling. I tried confronting them in person at first, asking who was behind it, but nobody said a word. Silence, smirks, whispers, and the screenshots kept coming. Every insult, every false accusation, every fabricated story, it all ended up in my inbox. For a week, I felt trapped, unable to respond, unable to defend myself, unable to breathe. Then I remembered something that I had been doing for years, mostly as a habit, mostly as insurance. Screenshots, every message, every suspicious conversation, every exchange that could ever matter, I had saved them. I went through them one by one, lining them up like soldiers preparing for battle. The screenshots weren't just digital fragments. They were proof, evidence, my weapon. By the second week, I began to understand the pattern. It wasn't random. It was coordinated. Someone wanted to destroy me, to ruin my relationships, my career, my life, and they underestimated me. I started to fight back. Not with rage, not with yelling, but with precision. Every screenshot, every recorded conversation, every saved chat became a counterstrike. If they tried to ruin my life, I would expose the truth, and I would do it quietly, meticulously, without them even realizing it. That night, I stayed awake until sunrise. Laptop open, fingers flying across the keys, arranging evidence, cataloging lies. By morning, I had a plan, a way to make them regret ever thinking they could ruin me. Little did they know, the screenshots they laughed at, mocked, dismissed, they were my shield, my sword, my revenge waiting to be wielded, and I was ready. The next morning, I woke up to another wave of chaos. Messages, mentions, posts, they had multiplied overnight. Friends I trusted, colleagues I respected, even distant acquaintances. Screenshots were circulating, misrepresenting me, twisting my words into something unrecognizable. I didn't panic, not yet. I had my screenshots, every single one. I opened my laptop and started cataloging everything like a forensic investigator. Each file, each photo, each chat log was a piece of a puzzle I now controlled. I knew their plan. They thought I was blind, helpless, naive. They thought they could destroy my reputation and my life before I even realized what was happening. They were wrong. By mid-morning, I started responding. Not publicly, not emotionally, but strategically. I contacted friends directly, showed them messages in context. I reached out to colleagues with clarifications, screenshots proving I hadn't said what they claimed. And slowly, the tide started turning. But it wasn't enough. They weren't just attacking me. They were trying to isolate me, to make me feel powerless. Every new post, every new whisper, every new lie, it was all coordinated. I could feel their intent, like a shadow lurking over me, testing my limits. Then came the email, a single line, bold in red. "Stop now or it will get worse. You'll regret ever saving those messages." I leaned back in my chair, my heart hammering. They knew. They knew I had the screenshots. It was the confirmation I needed. They weren't amateurs. They were calculated, methodical, dangerous. I took a deep breath and smiled. They had underestimated me. Over the next few days, I dug deeper. Every group chat, every social media thread, every private conversation, they were all connected. I traced the accounts, identified fake profiles,
found patterns in their attacks. It was like peeling back layers of a virus. And then I found it, the first real clue. A user, sloppy and careless, had posted something I recognized. An inside joke only a few people knew. The screenshot was mine, but the post was theirs. I copied it, verified timestamps, cross-referenced with my archives. Bingo. I had a name. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Not because of fear, but because of planning. Every step, every screenshot, every bit of evidence, they were all pieces of my next move. They thought they could destroy me, but I was building a counterstrike so precise it would leave no room for retaliation. By sunrise, I had mapped everything, every lie, every attack, every manipulation, and I knew exactly where to hit first. It wasn't rage. It wasn't revenge for its own sake. It was justice. Methodical, undeniable justice. I took a deep breath, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. The first message would be sent in less than an hour. A single, undeniable revelation. And when it landed, everything they built would crumble. I leaned back and allowed myself a moment of satisfaction. They had underestimated me. They had assumed ignorance. They had assumed weakness. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The moment I hit send on the first message, I felt a shift in the air. Not dramatic, not explosive, just a quiet, sharp tension, like the moment before a storm breaks. I hadn't exposed everything. Not yet. I'd released only one screenshot, just one, but it was the right one, the perfect one. A message from the very person who had started the smear campaign against me, bragging about how easy it would be to ruin him. They had sent it months ago, thinking I wouldn't keep it, thinking I was too trusting, too naive to save proof. They didn't know me at all. Within 30 minutes, my phone started vibrating non-stop. First, it was a few confused texts. Wait, what's this about? Is this real? Why would they say that? Then it escalated. Questions turned into suspicion. Suspicion turned into anger. And anger turned into panic. Their panic, not mine. I checked the group chats. They were scrambling, deleting messages, editing posts, removing comments, trying desperately to erase their own footprints. Too late. I already had everything. Every insult, every fake accusation, every lie they told behind my back, every attempt to twist my words, frame me, isolate me, destroy me. Watching them panic should have felt satisfying, but it didn't. Not really. It felt necessary, like something that had to happen so I could finally take back control of my own life. But then something unexpected happened. Someone from the inside messaged me. Someone who had been silent the whole time. We need to talk. I didn't agree to this. They went too far. For a moment, I froze. This wasn't part of my plan. I expected hostility, lies, maybe even more threats, but not a confession, not someone switching sides. I replied with one sentence, "Tell me everything." What they sent next shook me more than anything I had uncovered so far. Screenshots, voice notes, private conversations, plans, full proof that the attack on my life, my reputation, my relationships, everything wasn't random. It was intentional, organized, deliberate, and worst of all, it had started long before I ever found out. They had a timeline, a literal timeline, with dates, goals, and strategies. Make people doubt him, twist his words, destroy his friendships, make him look unstable, and beside my name in their chat, a single phrase that made my chest tighten. He won't fight back. That was it. That was their entire confidence, their entire foundation, their entire plan. They thought I wouldn't fight back. They thought I'd break quietly, disappear quietly, let them win quietly. I sat there staring at those words, feeling something cold settle in my spine. Not anger, not fear, not sadness. Resolve. Pure, steady, unshakable resolve. I typed back, "Thank you. Keep everything. Don't delete anything. I'll handle the rest." Because now I had something far more powerful than screenshots. I had a witness, someone who knew what they did, someone who had watched it unfold from the inside, someone who's ready to talk. The game had completely changed. In just one day, the balance of power had shifted from them to me, and they didn't know it yet. They were still scrambling, still panicking, still trying to clean up the mess they made. And I was about to drop the second revelation, bigger, stronger, impossible to deny. I took a slow, steady breath and prepared the next piece of evidence. This time, they wouldn't just panic, they would crumble.
By the next morning, the atmosphere had shifted completely. I could feel it even before I opened my laptop. Messages, notifications, frantic texts. They weren't just coming from random accounts anymore. They were coming from people close to me, friends I trusted, colleagues I respected, even family members. And every single one contained the same question. Did you see this? Is this real? What is going on? I knew immediately. The web of lies had started unraveling, and the truth, for the first time, had the upper hand. I opened my next set of screenshots. This batch was bigger than the first, more damning. It contained messages from one of the orchestrators detailing how they planned to destroy me, which people to target, which stories to fabricate, who to turn against me first. But there was a twist, a name I hadn't expected, someone I considered trustworthy, someone who had been my ally through years of work, someone who knew me better than most. And they were part of it. I felt a hollow ache in my chest. Not just shock, but betrayal. I had been betrayed by someone I trusted completely. The screenshots were clear. The messages outlined how this person had fed false information, leaked private conversations, and manipulated others into doubting me. Everything was documented. Dates, times, even casual mentions of keep him distracted and he won't notice. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Every memory I had with this person suddenly twisted, distorted by the knowledge of their deception. Moments I thought were genuine now carried the weight of manipulation. And yet, I didn't panic. I didn't lash out. Not yet. I began planning. If they thought I would crumble silently, they were wrong. If they thought they could break me without consequence, they were wrong. I started reaching out to those affected by the lies. Friends, coworkers, even distant acquaintances. I presented the screenshots in context, carefully, methodically. With each explanation, with each proof, I saw the doubt creep into their minds. I saw their trust in me slowly restored. Meanwhile, the person who had betrayed me remained silent, probably confident that I still didn't know, confident that I wouldn't trace the evidence back to them. But I did. Every message, every post, every whisper was traced. I followed the chain until it led straight to their inbox. And that was when I realized something. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. This was about exposing the entire network of lies. Every orchestrator, every manipulator, every person who had tried to ruin my life. I saved every screenshot, every chat log, every trace of their coordination. Then I took a deep breath. I knew what I had to do next. The next revelation wouldn't just shake them, it would destroy their confidence, their carefully constructed plans, and finally give me the upper hand. I typed out a message to my first target, the person I knew would react most strongly. You thought I wouldn't notice. You were wrong. I know everything. I hit send, and instantly the reply came back. What? How? A small, almost imperceptible smile formed on my face. They had underestimated me. They had assumed I was oblivious. They had assumed weakness. And now they were starting to realize the truth. This was just the beginning, the first wave, the first crack in their fortress. And as I prepared the next move, I knew one thing for certain. I would not stop. I would not hesitate. And they would regret ever trying to ruin me.
By the time evening rolled around, the tension had reached a boiling point. My inbox was flooded with frantic messages from the people orchestrating the attacks. Half denial, half panic. It was beautiful chaos. But I didn't celebrate, not yet. I knew the first revelation had shaken them, but this was only the opening move. The screenshots, the proof, the messages, they were all ammunition, and I was ready to fire. I spent hours carefully constructing the next wave. Every reply, every piece of evidence, meticulously planned. I wasn't just defending myself anymore. I was striking back with precision. I started with the smallest target first. Someone who had spread lies about my character in private chats. I compiled screenshots showing the manipulation, the context, and the truth. Then I sent them to the people affected. Friends, colleagues, acquaintances. Within minutes, the responses began. "I can't believe they said that about you. This changes everything. Thank you for showing me the truth." It was slow, deliberate, restoration, a rebuilding of trust, brick by brick. Next, I moved on to the bigger players. The ones coordinating, the ones directing. I confronted them with undeniable proof. Timelines, conversations, plans. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I simply laid it all out. Fact by fact. The messages came back frantic, defensive, trembling. I ignored them. Because threats mean nothing when the evidence speaks louder than words. One by one, cracks began to show in their facade. The confident, smug orchestrators started questioning each other. Paranoia spread. The empire of lies they built so carefully was crumbling. And I stayed calm, methodical, controlled. By midnight, I had traced every attack back to its origin. Every post, every whisper, every lie. All linked, all documented. I leaned back, eyes scanning the screen. A plan formed in my mind. A final reveal. Something so undeniable, so complete, it would leave them no room to maneuver. But then, a private message appeared. A name I hadn't expected. "We need to talk in person. I have something important to tell you about all of this." My heart skipped a beat. Was it a trap? Another manipulation? Or was it someone finally coming clean? I hesitated for only a second. Then I typed, "Meet me tomorrow. We do this face to face." That night, sleep was impossible. Not because of fear, but because of anticipation. The final pieces were coming together. The truth was about to be laid bare, and I was ready. I wasn't the naive target they had expected. I wasn't the weak, silent victim. I was the one with the evidence. I was the one with the power. And now, the real confrontation was inevitable. Tomorrow, everything would change. And when it did, they wouldn't just regret what they tried to do to me, they would regret ever thinking they could touch my life without consequence.
The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop early. The place was nearly empty, quiet except for the faint hum of machines and the clinking of cups. My hands tightened around my coffee cup, not from nerves, but from anticipation. This was it, the confrontation I had been building toward for weeks. Minutes later, they walked in. One by one, the orchestrators, the liars, the manipulators who had tried to ruin my life. They didn't look confident, not anymore. Their eyes darted nervously, calculating, but underneath it all, fear. I stood up as they approached. No hostility, no anger in my tone, just calm, methodical, controlled. I said, "Sit," and they did, hesitantly. I opened my laptop. One by one, I laid out every single screenshot, every private message, every fabricated post, every lie they had spread. I showed timelines, chains of communication, and proof of coordination. I showed them exactly how they had tried to destroy me, who they had involved, and how each piece fit together like a puzzle. I watched their faces as the evidence unfolded. Confusion, shock, denial, panic, and finally, silence. One of them stammered, That's not, you can't." I cut them off calmly. "Yes, I can, and yes, I did. I've been silent while you plotted, while you lied, while you tried to ruin me. But I wasn't powerless. I was preparing. I was waiting. And now the truth is undeniable." Another tried to defend themselves. "It wasn't supposed to get this far." I leaned forward. "It didn't have to get far. But you underestimated me. You assumed I wouldn't save anything, wouldn't notice, wouldn't fight back. You were wrong. All of you were wrong." The tension was unbearable. I could feel their panic radiating off them. The arrogance, the confidence, all shattered. They had built an empire of lies, and it was crumbling under the weight of proof. Then I sent the final message. A compiled file. Every single piece of evidence. Everything they had done. Everything they had said. Exposed and ready to be shared if they made one wrong move. I looked each of them in the eye. I said, "This is your choice. Apologize, admit what you did,
and repair the damage. Or I released everything to everyone. And believe me, it won't be pretty. The room was deathly silent. No one spoke. No one dared. Finally, one of them whispered, voice trembling, We're sorry. We didn't think. I held up my hand. Save it. Actions speak louder than words. You have to fix this. And if you don't, the world will see exactly who you are. They nodded, broken, humbled, afraid. And for the first time in weeks, I felt relief. Not vengeance. Not anger, relief. Because finally the lies were gone. The manipulators exposed. The truth laid bare. I closed my laptop, grabbed my coat, and walked out. Outside, the air was crisp. Clean, like a storm had passed. I inhaled deeply. I had been tested, lied to, betrayed, and threatened. They tried to ruin my life. And yet here I was. Standing tall, whole, victorious, because I had prepared, because I had proof, because I refused to be silent. And now, my life was mine again. Not theirs, not controlled by fear or manipulation, mine. I walked away from the coffee shop, leaving behind the chaos, the lies, and the people who underestimated me. For the first time in months, I felt free. The screenshots, the messages, the evidence, they weren't just proof. They were survival. They were redemption. They were power. And I had kept them all. Because sometimes the only way to survive the people who try to destroy you is to be ready, to be patient, and to never, ever forget.